Hello, Jacksonites, and welcome to part 3 of my Undisputed film review series. Before I start this, I have to do something just real quick. Hold up. Sorry. I look at my ugly ass. Okay, I'm back. Sorry, I had to send the link to a couple friends of mine who wanted to see this. So, 4 years after the previous Undisputed film, we get a third installment in the Undisputed series. This is the last time where there is a 4-year gap between Undisputed films. I'll get into the reason why. Restless Jackson. Oh, hello, brother. I'll get into why there was no more 4-year gap when I review the 4th Undisputed film, but, with that being said, today I'll be reviewing one of my absolute favorite martial arts movies. Without a complete shadow of a doubt, though when I get around to doing my top 10 favorite martial art movies, you'll be a bit surprised on where this is on the list, and that is 2010's Undisputed 3 Redemption. I'm not going to make it a secret. Holy shit. I have a cherry pie. Cherry pie is nasty. Undisputed 3, I can't believe I did not put it on my top 100 favorite films list. Because I love this movie so goddamn much. With the whole Undisputed series, the 3 that have Boyka in them, I can definitely watch a lot more than the first film. But I kind of have to sort of be in certain moods to see the rest of the series. Undisputed 3... You're nasty. Hey, I don't like pie. I don't even like cake either, so it's not like I prefer one or the other. Undisputed 3, I can definitely pop on the screen and enjoy on a whim. I don't have to be in a certain mood. I can just pop it on and enjoy it the same amount every single time. Undisputed 3 is such an utterly fantastic film. Before I get into the plot, I need to wet the whistle. Excuse me. So, the plot of Undisputed 3. Several years after the events of Undisputed 2, Boyka has sort of, but not really, recovered from his broken knee at the hands of Cake, I understand. Hello, the boss gamer. Cake, I understand, but pie. I don't like, the only pie that I like is pumpkin pie. I'm sorry. And even then, it's hit and miss. Anyway, Boyka is now the janitor of Cholchi Chomya prison, and he does not look the same as he did. He let all of his hair grow out, and he let his beard grow out, so he kind of looks more like Russian Sirius Black from Harry Potter. And his knee is noticeably still fucked up, because he walks with a really, really bad limp. Mob boss Gaga from the previous film, played by the same actor, thank God, he's a really good actor, has expanded his prison fight system to almost a prison fight empire, to which now he is holding the first prison Spets competition tournament, which picks 8 fighters from all over the globe to basically compete in a tournament together at the chance of getting a clear record and an early release. You need to see the ninja movies. I want to see the ninja movies, particularly Ninja 2, because I've seen the final fight to Ninja 2. It is fantastic. But I'll definitely need to get my hands on those. Anyway. Shit, where was I? Oh, yeah. And the current champion at Boyka's prison is a big dude named Saikov. When Gaga notices Boyka's condition, he feels bad for him and says, I'll get you a better job here at the prison, but Boyka refuses, saying, if you want to help me, get me in this tournament. And Gaga says, nah, man, with your knee, it's suicide. But then he kind of picks up that maybe Boyka just does want to die. So, but even then, Gaga says, nah. However, behind his back, Boyka does a couple training exercises to help rehabilitate his knee, which includes working out the muscles by lifting a bucket of water with his bad knee and also smashing it against a padded wall in order to build strength and endurance back into it, which sounds painful as hell. He also takes a razor that he had smuggled into his bed, shaves his hair and shaves his beard to his typical look, which is a buzz cut up. Actually, here, there's his haircut. This is what he looks like in the rest of the film. Imagine all this with long flowing hair down his head and a much fuller beard. He really does look like a Russian Sirius Black. And then when Saikov finishes the final round in order to declare him the champion to move on to the PSC, Boyka shows up and says, "You're not the real champion here. I want to fight." And they allow Boyka to fight Saikov, and he swiftly slaughters Saikov. Not literally, but he blocks one punch and delivers 7 strikes. I counted 7 strikes. A couple punches, a couple kicks. The final kick being a spinning drop kick that lands right in Saikov's stomach, sending him out of the ring. Which admittedly is a little bit of a problem that I have with this movie, because physiologically it does not make sense for Boyka to suffer such an incredibly serious knee break and to come back to swirling around like a fucking wushu expert in the ring after just doing a couple of minutes of exercise with his bad knee. But either way, Boyka is now the champion of this prison, so he is taken to where the PSC is held in a Ukrainian prison called Gorgon. Odd name, I know. There he meets the 7 other prison fighters. I only remember the names of a few of them. One of them being Raul Quiñones, a Colombian martial artist who is nicknamed Dolor, which is Spanish for the pain, played by fellow martial artist Marco Zaror, I believe is his name. Who is a bit of an underrated martial artist in my eyes. I'll get to his skills in a minute. Another martial artist there is Andriago Silva, played by the extremely underrated martial artist Latif Crowder, who is trained in the martial art capoeira, which is one of my absolute favorite martial arts. And I would say Latif Crowder is one of my favorite martial artists, but he's so underrated and has so few appearances that the only way that I can really do him justice is just have him as an honorable mention. But he is to capoeira like Tony Jaa is to Muay Thai. And the last noteworthy martial artist, or actually no, he's not really a martial artist, he's just a fighter, is an American boxer named Turbo, who he calls himself Turbo. Played by Michael Shannon Jenkins, I think that's his name. Yeah, Michael Shannon Jenkins, this guy here, who is clearly just an American boxer, essentially. He's very similar to Chambers from the previous film. He's a loudmouth, he's insubordinate, he's defiant to the guards, he talks 1,000,000 miles a minute, and every other word out of his mouth is fuck. It's very clear from the beginning that there is like a rivalry between Turbo and Boyka. they are forced amongst Gen Pop to do some hard labor, which consists of smashing apart rocks with hammers, loading up bits of rocks into a truck to be carted away, and just doing really, really shitty ass hard labor. I can't even imagine how bad it must be. Before the fights go down, let's see. Actually, no. After the first scene of Gen Pop hard labor, the first fights of the competition begin. The first one that we see is Andrago Silva versus a Greek kickboxer. I think that's what he utilizes in. Silva just utterly slaughters the dude. I don't think the Greek guy gets a single punch in before Silva just utterly demolishes the dude. The next fight is Turbo versus a Croatian kickboxer. And while the Croatian guy, he gets some licks in. In fact, this shows Turbo's weakness as a fighter is that he's almost purely a puncher. He uses his arms. He doesn't really kick. He's very obvious that he's a boxer with like some rudimentary skill in Krav Maga, because he defeats the Croatian dude by blocking his punches with his elbows and smashing the dude's hand with his elbows and forearms, and then delivering a haymaker punch to take the dude out. So either it's Krav Maga or just some basic like street fighting knowledge. The next fight is Boyka versus a French Muay Thai practitioner, and this dude just is kind of similar to Silva's fight, is just slaughtered by Boyka. It's actually one of my favorite fights in the whole movie because of just how almost effortlessly Boyka tears this dude to pieces. And the final fight is Dolor versus a Korean Taekwondo practitioner, and while the Korean guy gets a couple licks in, earlier in the film it is revealed that the Colombian guy is supplied drugs by the warden of the prison, which are most likely steroids and pain-inhibiting opioids. So basically it's steroids and morphine. So every one of those strikes that the Korean dude landed, most likely he probably didn't feel a thing. And the dude is swiftly taken down by the much more taller, much stronger, and much faster Colombian Dolor. In fact, that's his primary attribute, is his speed. I'll get to that in a little bit, like I said. So, the 4 fighters who have been defeated, turns out that in this competition, the losers do not survive. When they clean up their wounds and they're to be sent back to their prisons, they're actually shot dead in the middle of nowhere by Ukrainian prison guards, unfortunately. So after the fights, Jericho instigates another fight with Boyka, which ends with Boyka taking him down with a flying armbar, and the two are sent into solitary confinement. They're led out by Gaga and Turbo's mob boss guy. Oh crap! I can't remember his name, but he has a face that I just want to punch. He's clearly Italian. He actually kind of reminds me of, what's his name? Vince from Mike and Molly. He's Italian. He's kind of big and burly, but he just has a face that I want to punch. Boyka and Turbo tell their managers we're being forced to do hard labor, which doesn't sit well with the two mob bosses. So they go to the warden of the prison, who is also in league with the head Russian mob boss named Rizzo. I have a little bit of a problem with Rizzo. If you listen and watch the way this dude speaks, he has like this deep, grovelly voice that comes out, and I swear to God, this guy was dubbed in. That is not his real voice coming out of his mouth. I swear he was dubbed in post. His voice just doesn't match. If you listen closely, his dialogue just doesn't really seem to match his mouth movements. And it drives me absolutely insane, the way this dude speaks. Unless I found out otherwise, I'm just going to say this dude was dubbed. And my question is, why? But anyway, Rizzo tells the two mob bosses they're being forced to do hard labor because this tournament is fixed, as you could probably guess. And in his words, I want to make the highest profit at the lowest risk. And he tells the two mob bosses, liquefy all of your funds and put it all on the Colombian, because Rizzo's main guy is the Colombian, Dolor. And the two mob bosses decide, yeah, fuck it, I'll put all my money on the Colombian. Realizing their loyalty only goes as far as their payroll. So Boyka and Jericho are seemingly on their own. Slowly, Jericho and Boyka start to have a steady respect for each other, and they figure out their own training session when they are set to be starved for the competition, and they're only given 1 hour a day to train in the to punch a punching bag and spar and all that kind of stuff. They're only given that to do that 1 hour a day. No food, barely any water, barely any food. I said that, but barely any food. Which is obviously not very good conditions for a fight. The warden sets... Actually, no, hold on, that's later. So in the semifinals, Boyka goes up against Andriago Silva, Lateef Crowder's character, and the two are almost evenly matched, but the fight ends with Boyka tapping him out in what is called as a triangle hold, which is a Brazilian jiu-jitsu technique where you basically wrap your legs around a dude's head and you start yanking on their arm. It's basically a submission hold, and realizing he's done, Andriago just taps on Boyka's arm, says, okay, I'm done. But Boyka, who's seemingly kind of softened up over his time at the prison since his defeat, pulls Silva to his feet and says, good fight. However, unfortunately, Andriago Silva is taken out to be gunned down, which is bullshit. Why would you kill off Lateef Crowder? God damn it. So after this, Rizzo gets worried that Boyka is too strong and may potentially defeat Dolor. So he sets up Turbo to be beaten to a pulp by the guards and spreading a lie saying that Boyka and Jericho are butt buddies, fucking, which is not true, and apparently looked down upon that in Ukrainian prisons. So he's beaten to a pulp and is fixed to fight Dolor wounded. So, knowing this, Boyka decides to break Jericho out and says, you're in the military. You know your way around the forest. I'm going to let you free, and you will go to the forest and hide there until somebody can pick you up and take you to safety or some shit. Jericho initially refuses, but when another prisoner says, yeah, he's right, if you lose, you will be killed. Losing prisoners who fight go missing. So, after an unsuccessful attempt to break Turbo's chain, Boyka fights off the guards, snags a pair of keys, and unlocks his restraints and covers his escape into the forest. Boyka is then knocked out by the guards and is told by Rizzo that, I didn't expect you to put up any bullshit, but now that Turbo is gone, you will now fight the Colombian. And it also turns out that Yeah. Gaga has gone against Boyka and is now betting on Dolor, which pisses Boyka off to no end. So he commits himself to defeating Dolor to fuck up their payday. The initial fight between Boyka and Dolor is for the first couple of minutes, it seems to be evenly matched, but Dolor ramps up his speed, agility, and acrobatics to pretty much eviscerate Boyka. Dolor ends up fucking his knee up once again with a submission hold, and then from that point on proceeds to completely eviscerate Boyka using his quick strikes, using karate, Wing Chun, and also his high spin, high power kicks of Taekwondo and kickboxing to just utterly destroy Boyka, eventually kicking him out of the ring. However, Boyka discovers a mop nearby, used to mop up blood from the prisoners on the mat, and he rips it off and ties it around his knee when he remembers Turbo's Marine military mantra, improvise, adapt, and overcome. So he wraps it around his leg as a makeshift bandage and gets back inside the ring and fights Dolor once again, improvising his fighting style to using a lot of boxing techniques, headbutts of Kun Kumur, which is a kickboxing trait, ground and pound grappling techniques of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and Japanese Jiu-Jitsu, some use of Wushu to get some spinning and power into his kind of standard kicks, overcoming adapting to his new surroundings and overcoming Dolor's speed and reach. Eventually, the fight ends with Dolor, in a moment of rage, trying to kick Boyka. Boyka raises up his knee and shatters shatters Dolor's shins over Boyka's knee, effectively ending the fight. It's admittedly kind of a bad CG effect because it's very obvious that it just kind of flops around like it's made out of rubber or some shit. They used the same effect when Boyka broke his knee in 2. It looked worse there, but it still looks bad here. Ending the fight and fucking up everybody's chance of getting a good payday. Because everybody bet everything on Dolor. So the Italian mob boss goes to the prison warden and says, "You need to come up with all that money that I lost." Shoots Rizzo and his bodyguard, but is shot by the prison warden. The warden of the prison tells Boyka, "You won, but you're not getting shit. Since we haven't caught the American, you will be going back to your prison, and Jericho will be set free. Or Turbo will be set free, excuse me." Boyka says, "I don't really care," because he's made his point. He's taken to the same spot where the losers are to be killed, but he's saved at the last minute by Turbo, who shoots the guards. Turns out, Turbo was picked up by Gaga, and it also turns out Gaga placed all of his money on Boyka to win, winning about 5, 6, maybe 10 million bucks. Because he knew that, and to quote him, "Well, good knee, bad knee, no knee. You fight good when you're angry." Am I the only one who thinks he would make a really good Incredible Hulk? So, Boyka gets his share of the profit and says, "Let me out. I'm gonna just go to a neighboring country to fix up my knee and shit." So, Turbo reveals his first name to Boyka, which is Jericho. And since Boyka is actually a religious guy, he appreciates the religious, what's the word? No, not analogy. Fuck. The religious belief, I'll say for lack of a better word, for Jericho's name, and reveals his own first name to Jericho, which is Yuri. common Russian name. Jericho gets back in the car with Gaga and drives away. Boyka heads in the opposite direction toward a neighboring country, laughing joyfully as he realizes he is a free man, thus ending the film. So how about this plot? If you ask me, this is the peak of how epic the plots can be in the Undisputed series. It was kind of small in the first movie, then it was a big, big step up in the next film, and then you just double that for this film. Oh my god, the plot in this film is just so freaking awesome. So let's get into the pros of Undisputed 3. The acting all across the board is really, really good. Even though I can't stand the Italian guy, he does good too. Scott Adkins as Boyka is a significant improvement over his performance in the previous film. Not to say it was bad in the previous film, but it's kind of like a Halloween 2 case. Rob Zombie's Halloween 2, where the acting was still good in the first movie, but because Halloween 2 was definitely more of a character piece and a character study, so the actors were given a lot more to do with their roles and expand upon their performance. Same cases with Scott Adkins here. Scott Adkins is allowed to do a lot more because he is now the protagonist instead of the antagonist from the previous film. And Scott Adkins' acting is just really, really, really good. I still find it funny that Scott Adkins is an English guy, yet he's playing a Russian dude. And he pulls off the accent very well, for starters. And even though, like, this Boyka, he's like a hardcore Russian, he doesn't know much about American culture and stuff like that, he kind of acts like a Russian American in the fact that he swears so much. I think in every sentence that he says fuck at least once. I think you should fucking hang yourself. Stop asking so many fucking questions. He swears like a damn sailor. And, oh god, Scott Adkins is just utterly amazing as Boyka in this film. Michael Shannon Jenkins as Turbo does a really, really good job. In fact, I'd say as a motor mouth and as a partner for Boyka, he's a little better than Chambers. Granted, I do think if Boyka and Chambers worked together as a team, they would be kicking all sorts of ass. But if Boyka and Turbo teamed up, they would also be kicking all sorts of ass as well. And Michael Shannon Jenkins does a really, really good job as Turbo. He talks like an asshole. He acts like an asshole. He just is an asshole. But he also portrays the wrongfully accused prisoner very, very well. He's angry about it, but he's also not whiny and bitchy about it. And as a fighter, he's also pretty good too. I can't remember his name. Ivan Zanir, I think that's his name. The guy who... Let me look it up. Hang on just a second. Mark Ivanir, excuse me. Mark Ivanir as Gaga. He does a really good job too, even though you don't really see him that much. In the previous film, he kind of was like a sub-villain, but now he's evolved into kind of a sub-anti-hero. He's like the brains to Boyka's brawn in a bit of a sense. But he does a really good job too, even though he has about as much the same screen. Actually, no. I think he has a little bit more screen time than he did in the previous film, but I think he has about the same amount of lines. But he does a really, really good job in this film. The guy who plays Rizzo, despite the fact that I cannot stand his dubbed voice, he does a good performance too. He is such a smug, arrogant, cocky, full of himself douchebag. You look at him, he just screams, "I'm a slimy bastard." You just want to shoot him, just like he gets shot in the end of the film. Overall, the acting and the characters, they're still really, really good. That's the first two pros. Pro number 3 is that the pacing is kind of like 2, great. The pacing in this movie is very, very solid. Not one scene drags. Every single scene feels like it's important to the plot. Whether it's establishing the underground mob boss society or the new prison society at Gorgon Prison, um, or establishing the hard labor environment, every scene feels important and every scene feels intricate to the story. Which is is kind of a bit of a step up in this film as well. Though I kind of think it's a bit hard to top too, but this movie does do that wonderfully. That's what I have to say about the pacing. It's just really good. It's really solid. Not one scene drags, and everything feels important. You're never bored watching the film. The fight okay, before I get to that, this movie also has something that's a little over the second film. Is the cinematography. The cinematography is very, very good. Whereas the first movie, it was still, the cinematography was good, but I wouldn't say that it was, like, spectacular. Though in its own way it was good. The first movie was really dark and cold and gritty and grungy. I mean, you had a dude waiting around and shoveling shit, literally. Whereas this movie, because a lot of it takes place outside, and there's a lot more wide open spaces. The cinematography is really good. There's some really good wide open shots that just show what pretty much looks like hell. And the prison is very well lit. It's very it looks kind of semi-comfortable for a prison, whereas the one in Undisputed 2 just looked like a total hellhole. Although that was the point. Just the cinematography is very good. It's a very pleasant film to look at as far as cinematography goes. The fight choreography is very, very fucking good in this movie. I would actually say it's a little better than the second movie, because it's no longer a UFC fighter versus an MMA fighter. It's just pure MMA fighters going at each other. The fight choreography improves because both the combatants, they're spinning, flipping, jumping, 360, 720 degree spin kick type martial arts choreography, that the choreography is allowed to be much more loose and much more flamboyant, and it's really fun to look at, and it's really well intricate, and it's very well executed. This is the movie that impresses me the most in terms of fight choreography, with Undisputed 4 being a very close second. But overall, the fight choreography in this movie is so fucking good. It's not even funny. And that brings me to the fights. The fights in this movie are so fucking amazing. Not counting the small little skirmishes that, actually no, yeah, I'll count those. You have Saikov's first two fights that you see, so that's 2. Boyka defeating Saikov. The competition fights in the SPC, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4. First Boyka versus Turbo fight. Silva versus Boyka. Turbo and Boyka versus the prison guards. And then finally we have Boyka versus Dolor at the end of the film. So that's 11 fights. Whereas I think the first movie not the first movie, but the second movie just had 8. This movie ups the fights. Though, again, if you don't count the first 2 skirmishes between Saikov and his 2 cannon fodder opponents, the movie still has 9, so it has 1 over the previous film. The fights are so fucking fun. They're so fucking entertaining. They're so well choreographed, you just cannot look away and just enjoy these awesome martial arts scenes. My 2 favorites is, obviously my absolute favorite is the entire Boyka versus Dolor fight. That fight is just utterly spectacular. It has 3 acts to it. It has a first, middle, and ending. It's a movie in and of itself. In fact, if you were to trim the movie down to just be that entire fight, that'd be a great fucking movie. My second favorite fight is actually Andriago Silva versus... Sorry, I thought I heard something. Andrago Silva versus the Greek kickboxer. Mainly just because I think that's the peak of... Actually, no. It's tied with his fight in Tony Jaa in The Protector as the ultimate showcase of Lateef Crowder's capoeira skills. A close third being Silva's fight with Boyka, because the two are both acrobatic kicks or acrobatic kickers, and with also Scott Atkins being trained in capoeira, it's a really fun match to see because you're seeing two speed agile kickers going against each other, and what ultimately wins is Boyka's superior skill in grappling and punching. It's a really, really good fight, and just overall, the fights in this movie are so fucking fun. And with all of this good stuff to say about this movie, are there any cons? Admittedly, no. If you want to get into the really nitpicky stuff, it doesn't physiologically make sense for Boyka's knee to have recovered as quick as it did. Even though this movie takes place many years after the second film, it still doesn't make sense with Boyka walking with as bad of a limp as he did at the beginning of the film to spinning around and delivering powerful knee strikes and powerful kicks with his bad knee. It just doesn't make sense for it to happen as quick as it did. But I'm not really tripping on that. And also, the Russian mob boss's dubbed voice drives me nuts, but I can look past that, and I can just enjoy the living shit out of this movie all the way to Pluto and back. Which is why I'm, like Undisputed 2, I'm going to give this movie a perfect 10 out of 10. This is easily my favorite of the Undisputed films. It's the one, like I said, I can pop in anytime and just enjoy it on a whim. And enjoy it the same way every single time. I love Undisputed 3, and if I could redo my top 100 favorite films list, I would definitely put this on it. So join me tomorrow as I review the finale to the Undisputed series. So far, I do hope we get at least a 5th Undisputed film, because admittedly the ending to Undisputed 4 kind of leaves me wanting more. But I'll get to that when I review Boyka Undisputed, or simply known as Undisputed 4, from 2017. Yeah, I'll get to that when I review it. So post your comments down below, let me know what you think. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, share this video with your friends. And as always, I'll see you guys in the ring, and I'll see you in the next video.